Hello everyone, and welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I would like to talk about all the debuffs you can encounter in Hero Wars. Debuffs in Hero Wars can be encountered in many forms, ranging from simple temporary or permanent stat reductions to one or more of your heroes in the battle, to very complex disables and controlling abilities. Without further ado, let's get right into dissecting all of the debuffs. Stun. The first debuff is Stun. Stun is the most common and the most powerful disabling status condition. When stunned, the target cannot perform any action, they cannot attack, use their special abilities or even move. When stun is first executed, it has an interrupting effect on the enemy. Stun is also considered a hard lock, because it cannot be broken by any action of the user of the stun or his allies, meaning for it to disappear, it has to either run out or be removed by an enemy target's ally. Another unique property of stun is that a stun target cannot dodge incoming physical attacks, regardless of their dodge stat, meaning opponents with the dodge stat become 100% susceptible to all physical damage for the duration of the debuff. Any hero or PvE enemy has the ability to inflict a short-lasting stun with any of their attacks if said attack deals damage that equals to or exceeds 20% of the opponent's maximum health, regardless of the attack's properties. This phenomenon is most commonly seen when a damage dealer hits another squishy opponent with one of their powerful blows. There are also methods of stunning an enemy without requiring to deal major damage, but these are not available to everyone. Heroes that can stun with their special abilities: Ishmael, Zeri, Cleaver, Kark, Lilith, Aurora, Luz, Arachne, Fox, Orion, Peppy, Luther, Mojo, Astrid and Lucas, Faceless, and Vari, Daredevil, Darkstar, Blind. The next debuff is Blind. Blind is a status condition which causes the affected target's physical attacks to miss entirely. Unlike dodge, Blind is 100% guaranteed to neutralize the damage taken by physical attacks for the duration of Blind. However, it does not come with the benefit of receiving energy per otherwise taken damage like it is with dodge. Oddly enough though, it seems like dodge can still trigger against a blind target. There's no visual cue for this, except for the fact that the dodge hero in question gains energy for an attack that was supposed to miss due to blind. Heroes that can blind: Qingmao, Heidi, Peppy, Fox, Artemis, any hero with purple rank Fenris patronage. Pet that can blind: Fenris. Silence. Silence is a status condition that stifles and blocks certain range of skills and attacks from activating for the duration of the debuff. This is perhaps the most complex debuff in the game, as the full extent of abilities and attacks blocked by silence is unknown and poorly understood. This is owed to the fact that this status condition is very specific in what it blocks. In general, it blocks magic attacks, even if they are based on physical attack stat, like Satara's basic attacks, skills that exclusively deal pure damage, including those based on physical attack stat, such as Cleaver's putrefaction skill, healing abilities, and all ultimate abilities that don't deal physical damage or are involved with physical attack stat, such as Elma's shifting sands, in any way. For example, silence won't affect Kira's blade whirlwind skill due to the fact it deals physical damage, which is based on her physical attack stat. On the other hand, abilities such as Kark's Nexus of Horror and Isaac's Teslan's Overdrive will be blocked by silence due to the fact neither ability deals physical damage on its own, as Kark deals damage through his Deadly Tendrils skill and Isaac through his High Voltage Module skill. It also blocks transformation abilities, such as Ishmael's Awakening skill, and buffs such as Zeri's Focus of Hatred, Juice You Will Not Stop Me and Martha's Foremother's Oath skills, and it also blocks any skill copied by Faceless, even if he copies a skill that doesn't get blocked by silence. Attacks and skills blocked by silence will attempt to activate the moment silence ends if possible, unless those attacks or skills got interrupted mid-cast by silence, but this rarely happens, as it requires precise timing for silence to cancel out an attack or ability, partially or completely. Energy lost in interrupted ultimate abilities will likewise warrant that they're not being immediately used the moment silence ends. There are exceptions to the rules established before. For example, a silenced Celeste is never deprived of her ability to hurl her magic balls in either form, meaning she is always able to either deal magic damage to her enemies, or heal her allies to some extent. Her other abilities, including her ultimate ability, still get blocked though. On the other hand, despite the fact that Cornelius deals exclusively physical damage with his attacks despite being a magician, he still gets blocked entirely by silence. That includes even his Heavy Wisdom skill, which deals physical damage. This is probably because Cornelius's physical attacks all depend on his magic attack stat. Another strange exception that is blocked by silence is Yasmin's Dance of Death skill, which deals physical damage, and the skill's damage value is dependent on the physical attack stat. Why this is the case is unknown. Perhaps it's to balance out the broken factor of Yasmin somewhat. If I find out more exceptions or additional rules to this debuff, I will make sure to either add it to the description or pin a comment under this video. Heroes that can silence: Thea, Kira, Isaac. Slow. Slow is a status condition that limits the affected target's ability to act. Slow effect reduces the target's movement speed, attack speed and skill speed. It can be seen as the direct antithesis of complete speed buff abilities, like Martha's For Mother's Oath and Juice You Will Not Stop Me skills. Most slow debuffs have the same visual cue, which is blue discoloration of the target and a snowflake appearing above them, except for Chabba's burp skill, which gives the target's brown discoloration instead. Heroes that can slow: Orion, Darkstar, Peppy, Chabba. Charm. Charm is a status condition that behaves similarly to a stun, but is much weaker. A charmed opponent cannot perform any action for the duration of the charm like with stun. However, charm does not negate the affected target's dodge stat. Additionally, charm is only a softlock, as the effect of charm is dispelled the instant the affected targets are hit or receive damage in any way. The only exception to this is Leanne, whose attacks will not disrupt charm. Currently, Leanne is the only being capable of charming her enemies. Mind control. Mind control is a status condition which temporarily manipulates your enemy to fight for your side. If there is only one enemy left on the enemy side, mind control will act as a pseudo-stun, and the mind-controlled enemy won't act. Hero that can mind control: Darkstar. Pet that can mind control: Mara. Paralysis. Paralysis is practically a modified version of stun. It likewise prevents all action for all of its duration. The one advantage Paralysis has over stun is that it can bypass Sebastian's Ode to Serenity shield and the initial debuff removal from the ability as well, but that's where its advantages end. Paralysis, unlike stun, does not negate dodge stat of the affected target. It also lacks the synergy with Mara which stun possesses. Heroes that can paralyze: Yasmin, Phobos. Displacement effects. Displacement effect is an umbrella term for effects that forcibly alter the enemy target's position, either temporarily or permanently. The displacement effects can be divided into knockbacks, knockups, lifts, and pulling abilities. Some displacement effects also have interrupting properties. Knockback pushes the enemy target back horizontally. The knockback intensity can vary. Heroes that can knock back: Qingmao, Fox, Dante, Daredevil, Galahad, Marcus in Ghost Mode, Lilith, Zeri, Astrid and Lucas. When Lucas first enters his beast form, Knockup sends the enemy target upwards vertically a certain height before falling down. The knockup intensity can vary. Heroes that can knock up: Kuk, Kai, Lift. Similar to knockup, it sends the enemy target upwards, but the difference is the enemy target stays afloat for a certain amount of time and can even be moved a certain horizontal distance before inevitably crashing into the ground, with the potential of dealing damage. Currently, only Faceless has the ability to perform lift with his power throw skill. Pull, a displacement effect which involves pulling one or multiple targets to a certain location. Cleaver's Rusty Hook skill has the ability to pull the backmost target to himself. Maya's Poisonous Bonds has the ability to pull the frontmost and backmost targets to each other, also known as Entangle, and Lars's Lord of the Storm has the ability to pull the entire enemy team into the center of the tornado. Damage over time. Damage over time is a status effect that causes the affected target to lose health over time without requiring any further action. There are two big classes of damage over time debuffs: burns and poisons. Outside of those two classes, there also exist unspecified damage over time debuffs, namely Refuses Rakashi's Mockery skill, and to some extent, Cleaver's Putrefaction skill can also be considered a damage over time debuff. What all of these debuffs have in common is the fact they are all status conditions doing pure damage, and as such it's impossible to protect against them with armor or magic defense stats. The only way to decrease or nullify the damage of these effects is through the use of special abilities that grant invincibility effects, protection, stat reductions, etc. Heroes that can burn: Qingmao, Daredevil, Kai. Heroes that can poison: Maya, Heidi, Yasmin. Stat reductions. Stat reductions are a group of debuffs that reduce at least one of enemy target's stats. They can be applied either temporarily or permanently in the whole battle. We have these following status reduction debuffs in the game: Decreased Magic Attack, which can be triggered by Cornelius's Rune of Suppression skill for 12 seconds. Decreased Physical Attack, which can be triggered by Faceless's Chain Lightning for 4 seconds and Phobos' Trembling Hands skill for 3 seconds. Decreased Main Stat, Strength, Intelligence or Agility, which can be triggered by Dante's Shackles of Weakness skill temporarily. Decreased Magic Defense, which can be triggered by Merlin's Phobia de Magica skill indefinitely, Krista's Chains of Frost skill temporarily, Corvus's Strike of the Damned skill temporarily, and Judge's Interference Generator skill indefinitely. Decreased Armor, which can be triggered by Corvus's Strike of the Damned skill temporarily, Qingmao's Open Heart skill indefinitely, and Jet's Acid Shot skill for 8 seconds. Decreased Dodge, which can be triggered by Corvus's Strike of the Damned skill temporarily. Marks. Marks are debuffs that are benign on their own if they're applied to an enemy. However, if the right conditions are met, they will perform certain actions that will hurt the enemies affected by the marks in some way, or at least put them at a disadvantage. We have these following marks: Hex, Water Marks, Foxfire Marks, Tracker's Marks, Assassin's Marks and Blood Marks. Hex. When applied to the target, Hex will damage the affected target with extra magic damage every 2 seconds if they receive damage. If they don't get damaged in that time period at all, this mark won't do anything. This mark is unique to Mojo's Hex skill. Water Marks. When applied to the target, Lars will deal more damage to them with all of his attacks. His Lightning Bolt skill will also prioritize targets marked with Water Mark, and stun them for longer periods of time, all thanks to his Conductance skill. This mark can be applied by Lars's Lord of the Storm skill, Krista's Chains of Frost and Frozen Needles skills. Foxfire Marks. When applied to the target, Foxfire Marks will explode and deal massive damage to the marked enemy for each mark applied to them whenever Satoru uses his Ravenous Pack skill. Foxfire Marks can be applied by Satoru's basic attacks thanks to his Ravenous Pack skill. Then he can also apply them with his Spirit Purification and Imminent Reckoning skills. Tracker's Marks. When applied to the target, Tracker's Mark will inflict a short duration stun whenever the affected target is hit by Lucas in Beast mode. Tracker's Mark can be applied by every basic attack done by Astrid through her Tracker's Mark skill. Assassin's Marks. When applied to the target, it will prioritize the target for Yasmin to attack, and she will attack only that target as long as the mark is active. When Yasmin uses her Dance of Death skill for the first time, the Assassin's Mark will settle on the target last tagged by Yasmin, and it won't go away even if other enemies attack Yasmin during that time. The only way for Assassin's Mark to disappear once it's settled is for the affected target to die, after which this mark can be reapplied to another enemy. Assassin's Mark can be applied by Yasmin's Dance of Death skill. Blood Marks. When applied to the target, it behaves like specific vampirism. Whenever the affected target is attacked by an enemy and they deal damage to them, they will also restore a portion of their lost health based on percentage of the damage dealt. Blood Mark can be applied by Dorian's Fountain of Blood skill. Energy Manipulation. Energy Manipulation is a class of debuffs which alters the energy system of heroes in some way. Users of alternative energy source, such as Astrid and Lucas with their Age Meter and Isaac with his Charge, are immune to energy manipulative effects. Additionally, energy manipulation doesn't work against monsters encountered in PvE, as none of their actions depend on energy. Currently, we have 2 energy manipulative debuffs, Energy Suppression and Energy Burn. Energy Suppression. When affected by this debuff, affected targets will lose the ability to gain energy from all sources. In other words, it suppresses energy gained from auto-attacking, using skills, killing enemies and also for receiving damage. Abilities that grant boosted energy charge, such as Orion's Full Charge, Kark's Negator of Laws, Jorgen's Tainted Wounds and Jorgen's Cycle of Energies will also be suppressed by this debuff. This debuff is so far unique only to Jorgen's Torment of Powerlessness skill. Energy Burn. This debuff burns a portion or even the entirety of the affected target's energy bar. In Jorgen's specific case, he can also steal energy on top of burning it. Energy Burn can be performed by Phobos, Nebula, Jorgen and Astaroth. Skill Level Reduction. Skill Level Reduction is a debuff which reduces the target's level of a certain skill in battle when applied. Currently, the only ability that causes this debuff is Cornelius's Memory Loss skill, which reduces the level of ultimate ability of whoever is struck by this debuff. Intelligence Steal. Intelligence Steal is a debuff which allows the user to steal a portion of opponent's intelligence stat and add it to their own stat. Currently, the only ability capable of doing this is Satoru's Eternal Wisdom skill, which allows him to steal intelligence with every basic attack. Damage Redirection. Damage Redirection is a debuff which redirects damage from the originally intended target to a different target. Currently, the only ability capable of doing this is Jorgen's Leper skill, which redirects physical damage dealt to the enemy team to the backmost enemy if it's already not hitting them. Magical Distortion Zone. Magical Distortion Zone is a field effect. All enemies positioned in Magical Distortion Zone suffer more damage from magic than they normally would. Currently, the only ability capable of causing this is Merlin's Magnus Magica skill, Ground Bind. Ground Bind is a debuff which binds the affected target to the ground, preventing it from being displaced by displacement effects. Currently, the only ability capable of causing this effect is Antvera's Stone Grasp skill, which also stunts the ground-bound target. Root. Root is a debuff which denies the target of the capacity to move. Despite the fact that the target is rooted, displacement effects work on rooted targets just fine without cancelling the root effect. Currently, only Maya's Queen's Revenge skill is capable of causing this debuff. For some reason, this effect also seemingly stops rooted targets from attacking sometimes, but it's uncertain what causes this phenomenon. Heal Block. Heal Block is a debuff, which partially or completely prevents the affected target from recovering lost health. Partial Heal Block can be caused by Yasmin with her Unknown Toxin skill, which blocks a certain portion of healing on a target poisoned by her. It can also be caused by Celeste's Two Fates and White Knight abilities. In Celeste's case, she applies a Cursed Flame effect on the battlefield, which lasts indefinitely and blocks healing until Cursed Flame reaches its capacity and disperses. Complete Heal Block can be caused by Jet's Potion of Fatigue skill, which blocks all healing without limitations for 8 seconds. Swallow. Swallow is a debuff in which the user swallows a target and temporarily removes them from the battle. The swallowed target cannot perform any actions. This debuff is currently caused only by Chabba's Wild Hunger skill, which also damages the swallowed target on top of everything else. Taunt. Taunt, also known as aggro, is a debuff which forces affected targets to attack the target initiating the taunt, and move to the attacking range of the initiator of taunt if they are already not in their range of attack. As an added bonus, Kark's Nexus of Horror skill will hit only the initiator of taunt and ignore everyone else. Taunt is less effective or even ineffective against field effects and area of effect attacks, and can be bypassed by a damage redirection debuff. Currently, the only user of taunt is Zero with her Focus of Hatred skill, Resurrection Prevention. Resurrection Prevention is a debuff which prevents targets capable of resurrection from coming back to life. This affects Astaroth's Last Word and refuses Rakashi's Oath skills. Currently, the only user of this debuff is Morrigan with her Necromancy skill. Enemy-only debuffs. Debuffs listed here are usable only by the non-playable enemies encountered in PvE modes. Grip. Grip is a debuff which allows the user to grip a target, removing them temporarily from the battle, and damage them over time for the duration of this debuff. Grip target cannot perform any action. This is very similar to the swallow effect used by Chabba, but the key difference here is that grip can be interrupted by debuffs with interruption properties, such as stuns and knockbacks, unlike swallow, which can be broken only if the initiator of swallow dies. Additionally, while grip can be blocked by Sebastian's Ode to Serenity shield, Chabba's swallow ability goes through it. Grip is currently used only by service constructs in chapters 14 and 15 when they perform their special ability. Grab. Grab is a displacement debuff which allows the user to grab the user and pull them into the air before smashing them into the ground, doing damage at the end. This displacement is very similar to Faceless's Power Throw skill, except grab deals damage even to targets that are immune to displacement effects, such as Andvari, and it doesn't move the affected target any horizontal distance. Currently, this debuff is used only by Seymour when he performs his auto-attack. Freeze. Freeze is a disabling status condition. It is the same as stun, but it has different visuals. Stun is characterized by the swirling stars above the target's head, whereas freeze encases targets in a chunk of ice. Currently, the only users of freeze are Shavarak with his small ice breath attack, and Seymour with his ultimate ability during water phase. That's it for today's video. This should be all of the debuffs in Hero Wars. There shouldn't be any that I've missed, but if I did anyways, please let me know in the comments, so I can address it. Thanks for watching. See you next time in another video.